So I've got 3 documents open right now, and I want to put these all together into one single document. So what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and go to our first document, hit Control A, that's going to make a selection around the entire document. Control C copies the document, and then we'll go to our first document or our third document that we have here, and Control V to paste. And we're going to do that for this image as well. And we're going to go ahead and paste that, and I can go to these and just close those down. So now what we have is a bracket, set of brackets, or I guess it's just a bracket, I'm not sure. But 3 images that need to be blended, and then we also need to do a sky replacement. So let's go ahead and do this one. This one is actually super easy since we don't really need to do anything major in terms of blending. So let's go ahead and go to the RGB channel. Hold down Control, make a selection out of the RGB channel, hit Shift F6. On some keyboards, it's Function Shift F6. Okay, so let's go ahead and feather that radius to about 400, and we'll add that in. So it's just a simple blend, very, very simple. Now I do want to blend this a little bit more, so I'm going to use the gradient tool. I'm going to make sure that my preset is set to this basic one right here, which is just foreground to transparent. So let's go ahead and set the opacity to, like, I don't know, 20, I guess. And we'll go ahead and set the foreground to white. If your swatches are not white and black, hit D on your keyboard and it's going to reset them. So let's go ahead and just bring in a little bit more darkness here. Maybe a little bit more here. Yeah. Pretty good. We still have some detail that we need to get, so let's go ahead and do that. We're going to do the same method. Just go ahead and make a selection out of the RGB channel. Shift F6, feather it by 400, and we're going to make a selection. Super, super easy. Now, we do have some darkening up here that I don't like, so I'm going to go to, where am I going to go? I'm going to go to here, just make a real quick selection, group this, and make a group. And that's going to make a really good, almost like it's blocking out that this feathering. So we have a more general mask, and then we have a very restrictive mask. Or not, sorry, not a restrictive mask, a very precise mask. That's what I meant. So if we go ahead and look at that, I'm gonna go ahead and make sure that this is a little bit darker. Cool. All right, so now we have a pretty good base to go off of. So I'm gonna go ahead and Control Shift Alt E. That'll merge into a new layer, and we are going to make a couple of adjustments here. So first things first, I want to balance out the exposure. So I'm gonna go to Shadows, make sure that is all the way up, and this is all the way down to 0. So fuzziness at 100, range to 0. Click OK, and I'm gonna set the feather radius to 120. And then we're gonna go ahead and go to our curves. So Control M will bring up the curves, and we'll go ahead and bring that in. Bring this in as well. So we're bringing up the midtones, and then we're pushing our black point in. Nice. Now I'm gonna go ahead and invert this, Control Shift I, and we are going to basically do the same thing but inverted. So I'm going to bring down the highlights, and I'm going to bring up the white point. Awesome. So that looks pretty good. So let's go ahead and hit Control D to deselect, and that is much better looking. So now I'm going to go ahead and apply a little bit of contrast. So I'm going to go ahead and add just a smidgen right there, maybe 18. And that looks pretty damn decent. So let's go ahead and get this sky replaced. So we want to go to the blue channel. The blue channel is going to be the best channel that you can use for sky replacements because it's blocking out all the green and all the red. So buildings and trees. So let's go ahead and hit Control L. That'll bring up our levels dialog box. We're going to bring this down to about 50, maybe a little bit more. Let's go about 38. And then we're going to go ahead and use our pen tool and make a selection around, or make a path, I should say, around this building. For some buildings, it's going to be much more complicated, but for this one, it's not too bad. So we're going to go ahead and wrap this around the foreground. Control Shift Enter creates a selection. I'm going to feather that by 1 pixel. And now we can go ahead and fill it by hitting Control Backspace. And we're going to fill the contents with black. And now we can go ahead and do a little bit of burning. So Shift O and then Shift O again will bring up your dodge tool. I'm sorry, your burn tool. Make sure we are set to shadows. You can go to the range here, or you can hold down Shift and do the same thing. And we're gonna go to here and just do a little bit of burning, just like so. Just getting that area looking a lot nicer. Okay, cool. Let's do a little bit more. Now what we can do is we can go ahead and dodge it. So let's go ahead and do that. I'm going to use the dodge tool set to highlights. And I'm gonna bring in, that's a little bit too much. Maybe 30%. I'm gonna try not to get these areas too much. Maybe what we can do is make a selection out of this. Set the exposure to 50, maybe 20, and we'll just go ahead and make that into a selection. Sorry, not a selection. We'll just do a little bit of burning. This is not working. Okay, let's try this. Let's go ahead and bring that in. Bring this in. And that in. Okay, cool. That looks pretty decent, although this is a little bit funky. Doesn't need to be perfect. Just needs to be decent. Alright, cool. Let's go ahead and make a levels adjustment here. Let's mess with the midtones. That looks pretty decent. I'm just trying to keep that detail that's in there. Okay, cool. So let's go ahead and deselect now that we have our selection going here. Hold down Control and then go to the blue copy and hit the make a selection by just clicking on this little thumbnail, or on this, or just use the channel itself. So I'm explaining this really badly, but okay. Let's go back to the RGB channel, and we're gonna go ahead and Control Shift U. That'll desaturate, and now we can go ahead and bring in our midtones, highlights. I think looks pretty decent, although this area is looking a little bit weird. Maybe about 10%. Okay, looks good. Whoops, didn't mean to deselect. So with our selection active, we're gonna go ahead and bring in a sky. So I'm gonna go ahead and where is the sun coming from? Let's go ahead and go with, let's go with something real basic like this. I'm gonna hold down Alt. That'll allow me to change the size or the scale of the sky. And I'm gonna put this right in the center. And we'll go about right there. Cool. Let's hit Enter on the keyboard. It'll place it. Go back to our blue copy. Make a selection out of that. Go back to the RGB channel. And we're gonna add that selection to a mask. Now, it looks pretty decent, but if we look real close, we got this stuff here. So let's go ahead and change the blend mode to multiply. change with the mask selected, go to filter, other, and then maximum. Click OK. And now we're looking really good. That looks so good. Alright. Sometimes I'm even amazed by the stuff that I do. So that looks pretty good. Awesome. So let's go ahead and brighten this up because it just looks a little bit fake. A little bit fakey. Brighten that up. A little bit more. That right there is good. And we're going to bring in a hue saturation. So I just hit Control U. So I'm going to bring in that saturation. Maybe bring in the lightness. Click OK. Now that is a good sky replacement. Cool, cool, cool. So last thing I'm going to do is Control Shift Alt E. That's going to make a stamp visible layer. And I'm going to go to Filter, Sharpen, Unsharp Mask, and I'm going to set the amount to 120 and the radius to 1.2. And now it's a lot sharper. Cool beans. So that looks pretty good. Yeah, I think that's it. So that's pretty much it. I would flatten the image and then save it as a JPEG. But that's all I really wanted to show you guys today. So if you guys have any comments, questions, concerns, advice, just let me know. And I'll try to get back to you as soon as possible. All right, see ya.